It's going to spend one movement point to enter this hex and one more to enter this hex and stop. That will cost us a morale point, so we'll open the play aid, and the French will move their morale down one slot. All right, so this is a very aggressive opening move for the French. Now the cavalry are going to move around. Now you saw that I moved through the cavalry. That is permitted, but there is no stacking in the game. You cannot end your move stacked with somebody, nor can you end a retreat stacked with anybody. So we're going to have to move around Third Corps, because if we were to enter this hex, we would have to stop because of First Corps' zone of control. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3. Now he must stop. Second Corps cavalry. Let's go ahead and make a very aggressive play. Let's go 1, 2 with the First Corps. Well, back him up. 1, 2, 3. We'll do that. First Corps cavalry and Second Corps cavalry is going to move 1, 2 right there. See if we can't trap these guys in Ligny. Next, up in the north on the road to Catabras, we're going to face First Corps. Not sure if I want to engage them just yet. So maybe the thing to do will be, well, I'll tell you what, let's see if we can't push them back. 1, 2. Second Corps is going to move in the woods, which would force him to stop, even if First Corps on the Allies did not have a Zoc in that hex. So we'll go ahead and put him right in there. And then we're going to take First Corps down the road. He's going to move 1, 2. Now, when you move along a road, you can move an extra hex as long as you stay on that road. So he can move one more hex. And that completes our movement. Now, so far the game sounds very, very simple, very basic, not much to this game. But let's continue on because it gets a little bit more interesting. Once you have completed your movement phase, as you see here in the sequence of play, you do enemy reaction. Here's where it can get very interesting. If your opponent has any cavalry adjacent to one of your units, he may withdraw before battle. He may also countercharge, and when he countercharges, there's a good chance that he could attack your infantry very effectively. So moving infantry up next to cavalry, even if they're very low strength, can sometimes be a dangerous thing, and it's by no means certain that you'll actually be able to engage them. So cavalry have a very interesting ability to react to battle. It's very hard to pin them down if you don't have cavalry of your own. We don't really have any situation for a reaction at present, so we're just going to move right along. Next, we have combat. During this period, what we have to do is pre-designate all of our attacks before we roll up anything. So these two cav are going to attack Third Corps, obviously. In Ligny, we're going to take the Guard and Fourth Corps, and we're going to attack the Prussian Second Corps. And these other two corps are going to attack the guy in the north there, and see if we can't trap the guy in Ligny. Last but not least, these two Second Corps and Second Corps Cav are going to attack the Anglo First Corps. So there you have it. That's our declaration. We'll start at the bottom. Here we have 1, 2 attack factors versus 2 defense factors. Looking at the CRT, you can see right here that we are going to be on the 0 column. So now the attacker has the option at this point to spend a morale point down here. So potentially I could spend 1 to move down to 6 towards defeat in order to increase my strength. Therefore, that would bump me up 1 column on the CRT. But after I do that, the defender then has the option to spend a morale point to also likewise increase his defense, which would bump you right back down. Now, it's kind of a dangerous thing at the moment because if I don't spend a morale point, there's a very good chance that my opponent will. And if he does, there's a good chance that I could rout with both of my attacking pieces. So what I'm going to do here, because this was something of an aggressive move on my part, I am going to go ahead and spend the morale point and see what my opponent would do. This is where the real tension comes in the game. So I spent the morale point, now I've thrown down the gauntlet. So my opponent has to look at this column versus this column, which is worse. Well, it's really not worth, I think, for the defender to spend the morale point at this point because all he really gains is the possibility of an attacker rout result. So if I was the Prussian, I would simply pass because the French are already down 2 morale from the start of the scenario. Next, we're going to go ahead and roll a die. Use the roller here in Vassal, and I rolled a 2. Okay, well that was a good thing I spent the morale point because had I not, and the Prussians had spent their morale point, then I would have been on the -1 column and I would have had to roll for rout. As it is, a +1 column means there's an end result that means no effect. Everybody remains in place. Next battle. Let's go ahead and do the one up here in Ligny. Since we're not going to be able to trap the guy in Ligny, what I mean by that is if the 3rd Corps had been forced to retreat like so, my attacking cavalry would move in. Now we have a Zoc in these 2 hexes. Then I would attack the Prussian 1st Corps up here and hopefully force him out, which then would surround 2nd Corps with enemy Zocs, possibly trapping him. It's an aggressive move, but it didn't work out. So let's attack 1st Corps. And again, it's going to be 3 on 3, and this time the French are not going to spend a morale point, but just to make things interesting, the Prussians will. So what we'll do is move the Allied morale down, and that means it's going to be the attacker's strength is still at 3, but now the defender's strength is at 4. So we're going to be on the -1 column. Rolling the dice, we roll a 6. This totally didn't work for the Allies. The result, now it would have been a possible rout had they not spent the morale point, but now they're going to get a DW result, which means defender withdraws. He must retreat out of his present hex towards a lock, closer to one of his locks. Now he has one here, and he has one here. So you have to move closer to one of them, and it's up to you which one you pick. And you'll always attempt to go to an empty hex that's not in an enemy zone of control. If you have no choice but to retreat through a zone of control, you're not automatically dead like in some games. Instead, what you would do is you would have to roll on the hazardous retreat table, so it means there's a 50% chance you're going to be destroyed. In this case, he retreats there. Our attacking cavalry must advance. Whenever cavalry is involved in attack, he must advance. So he advances there, and the infantry remains in place. Now let's go ahead and resolve the attack on Ligny. We have the Guard, and we have 4th Corps, which collectively have an attack rating of 6. Prussian 2nd Corps has a strength of 3, plus he's in a town, so that means he's going to be a strength of 4. According to the TEC, you can see right here that a town, look it up, there it is, town increases your defender's strength by +1. So he's 4 on 6. It's a net +2 for the attacker. Prussians will not spend any morale, nor will the French. So let's go ahead and roll this one up. Here we've opened up the CRT again, positioned it a little bit better. The die roll again is a 2. Okay, on the +2 column it is an exchange result, which is not good for the Allies, or for the French rather. In an exchange result, all the defenders are dead. So this guy here is going to go to the broken units window. And then the attacker must eliminate units that have an attack strength greater than or equal to the strength of the defender. And morale results from, increases by terrain or throwing in reserves by spending a morale point don't apply to this. So it's just what's printed on the counter. So this guy here, it's going to have to be the Imperial Guard that's going to actually break here. So he's going to go to broken units. Now here's what happens when a unit breaks. When a unit breaks, there's going to be a shift on Allied morale. So when the Prussian unit broke, the French morale went up 1, and Allied morale goes down 1. Now when the Imperial Guard breaks, French go down, and the Allies go up. So essentially it was a wash. So unless in an exchange there's going to be 2 units on the attacker's side removed, an exchange is going to have no effect. Furthermore, there will be no advance after combat during an exchange result. Last but not least, we have this attack in the north, which is going to be on the 0 column. And again, we're not going to use any of our morale points on either side. So we roll it up. Die roll is a 1. Wow, bad for the French. That is an AR, or attacker rout result. What the attacker now must do is he must rout his units. And to do so, he's going to roll a die for each of them. We'll start with the cavalry. Die roll for the cavalry is a 5. That means he must retreat 5 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You must retreat toward a lock. Now, if you retreat more hexes than your movement rating, then what's going to happen is you lose a morale point. So the French drop 1 more. But wait, it gets better. We have to roll for 2nd Corps. 2nd Corps rolls a 4. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That could have been a lot worse because he could have ended up retreating off the map altogether. And so it's fortunate that didn't happen. Now you may have noticed I moved him from here to here. Wait, he has to move towards the closest lock hex. That's correct, but there's 2 lock hexes here, and you can choose which one. I could move here, which is closer to this lock hex, obviously, or I could move here, which is 1 hex closer to this lock hex. So that is the end, and now the attacker has the option here. He could advance, but chooses not to here. The defender's going to stay in place because it's going to be his turn anyways. Better just to stay where he's at.